In this video on finance, we are going to look at simple interest. And before we get started, just a small introduction on how we do mathematics. So first of all, make sure you understand every step as the examples are given. Then it is very important to do the questions on your own, since we don't read mathematics, we do mathematics. And then finally, mark your answers to identify any problem areas in order to improve on them the next time you get a similar sum. Now, an overview of this video is first we're just going to look at the formula for simple interest, then calculate the final amount, then calculate the number of years, and then finally calculating the interest. Now, the formula is as follows: A equals to P bracket 1 plus I times N close bracket. Now, the A represents the final amount, the P represents the principal amount, that's the amount you start with, and then the I represents interest, and the N represents the time period. So that was the formula. Let's look at calculating the final amount. So in the first example, it says calculate the value of an investment of 25,000 Rand if it is invested for 8 years at 16.5% simple interest. So this is a very straightforward question. Now, before we get started, what's very important in finance is that you read carefully. And since they say simple interest, we know we're going to use the formula A equals to P 1 plus I times N. And what I would advise is that you start off by listing A, P, I, N, and then collect your information that are given. So A is what we want to solve. The principal amount is 25,000 Rand. The I is 16.5%, and then the N is 8 years. Right, now since we have all these variables, we can just substitute in the ones we have and solve then for the final amount. So we substitute in 25,000, then 1 plus, then the interest, you can decide whether you want to write it as 0.165 or to simply write it as is 16.5 over 100. So that depends from person to person how they want to write that. For me, it's just simple to always just take the number as it is and put it over 100, and then times by 8. Okay, so now we're going to type this into the calculator. And we just type it in exactly as we have it. Okay, so let's see what will be our answer. Our answer is going to be 58,000. So 58,000. So that basically means if you invest 25,000, then at the rate of 16.5% simple interest, at the end of 8 years, you will have 58,000 Rand. Okay, so for question 1, Mr. Smith invests 40,000 Rand in a money market account. The bank offers a simple interest rate of 14.5%. How much money will he have if he withdraws the investment after 4 years? Okay, so first of all, we can see it's simple interest, and the moment we see it's simple interest, we write down our formula for simple interest. A equals to P 1 plus I times N. Then I'm going to list A, P, I, N and collect my information there. So the A value is what I want to find. The principal amount is 40,000. Then the interest is 14.5%, and the number of years is 4. So A is equal to, we have 40,000 and then 1 plus the interest is 14,5 over 100 and times by 4 for the years. Let's calculate that. So we have our 40,000 and then times by the 1 plus 14,5 over 100. And we times that with 4. And that gives us 63,200. Right. So that was just calculating the final amount. Let's see how we're going to calculate the number of years. Now in example 2, it says Theo invests 3,000 into a savings account at 11% simple interest. Calculate after how many years he will have 7,500 in his account. So once again, we identify that it's simple interest. So A is equal to P1 plus I times N. And then I'm going to list the values that are given and what I have to solve. So if they have given us the principal amount and the final amount. So the principal amount, the amount he starts with, is 3,000. Then next, the 11% simple interest, so the interest is 11%. And then after how many years, so that means what is N's value? Only have 7,500. That's the final amount, 7,500. Now what we're going to do now is basically substitute in once again what we have, and we're going to solve for the unknown, the N value. So if I substitute in A, it's 7,500 equal to P's value is 3,000, and then 1 plus, and my interest is 11 over 100, and then times by the N that I'm going to solve for. So the first thing I'm going to do, remember we need to get to the N value here. So the first thing we need to do is work our way into getting N on its own. And I'm going to start by dividing both sides by 3,000. Because this will then cancel this one. So we'll have 1 plus 11 over 100 N equal to, and we can simplify this. I'm just going to leave it as is, 7,500 over 3,000. Next thing I'm going to do is take the 1 over. So the 1 goes over and changes sign. So 11 over 100 N is equal to 7,500 over 3,000 minus 1. And then we are going to take the inverse of this. So to get rid of 11 over 100, I'm going to multiply both sides by 100 over 11. So then that would cancel with that, and that would cancel with that. So N will then be equal to, so I'm just going to put that 100 over 11 in front here. So this is going to be, so if we multiply both sides by 100 over 11, this gives us 100 over 11, and then 7,500 over 3,000 minus 1. And then we type that into the calculator. Okay, so that gives us 150,11. So if we should write that down, that's going to be 13,636 years. But ideally, we'd like to have it, or sometimes the question will actually specify either to the closest, how many years. If they say how many years, since it's 13,6, you will round it up to 14, because 13 wouldn't actually be enough. In finance, we always round up to the complete year. So that's if they asked to the nearest year. Now, if they should ask for the years and the months, what we then do is you take that 13,63 and you subtract 13. So this is then 13 years, and then to get the months we just take that answer and we times it by 12. So then you take the fraction of the year that was left after you subtracted 13, times it by 12, and that gives you the months. So this would then be 8 months, because remember, in finance we always round up, because 7 wouldn't complete the cycle, or you wouldn't have reached 7,500 Rand only by 7 months. But after 8 months you definitely have had reached the 7,500 Rand. Okay, then for question 2, Jackie has 5,000 Rand that she puts into her check account and earns 3.5% simple interest per annum. How long will it take for her money to increase to 8,200? So once again, we can see that we have simple interest, so we write our formula. A is equal to P 1 plus I times N. And then I'm going to list A, P, I, and N. And what's given, the 5,000 is the principal amount that she puts away. Then the interest is 3.5%. And then the number of years, how long will it take for money to increase? That's the number of years. And increase to 8,200, so that's your final amount, 8,200. Okay, so now we basically substitute this into that formula. We have 8,200 equals to 5,000, and then 1 plus the interest is 3.5 over 100 times by the n that we want to solve. So divide both sides by 1,000. We have 1 plus 3.5 over 100 n is equal to 8,200 over 5,000. And then take the 1 over 3.5 over 100 n is equal to 8,200 over 5,000 minus 1, and then multiply both sides by the inverse here, which is 100 over 3.5. So both sides gets multiplied by 100 over 3.5. Then these two will cancel, and we are left then with n. We can just type that into the calculator once again. Okay, so this gives us 18,2857. Okay, so let's assume that they then asked us for the amount of months as well, which means we're then going to subtract 18 to get rid of the years, and then that's a fraction of the year that's left, and we multiply it with 12 months, and that would then give us 3.4 months, which we're going to round up to 4 months. So it's going to be 18 years and 4 months. Okay, now on to the final section of calculating the interest. Example 3, Vishay has 7,000 Rand. What interest rate would he need for the money to increase to 10,250 in 15 years? All right, so if this is now not specified, but since we are working with simple interest, let's then assume this is a simple interest sum. A equals to P 1 plus I times by N. Now listing our values A, P, I, and N, we have the 7,000 as the principal amount, and then we have the 10,250 as our final amount, and we have 15 years, and then we have to find the interest. So let's substitute everything in. So we have 10,250 equals to 7,000 1 plus interest, and then the N is 15 years. Okay, something you need to be careful for, but we'll look at that in the end. The I, the interest, you're going to have to remember that it is over 100. But we'll look at that at the end, actually. So divide once again with both sides with this coefficient over here. Then we'll have 1 plus, I'm just going to write this as 15i to get my coefficient in front of my variable that I'm solving for. So this is then 10,250 over 7,000. And then take the 1 over, so we have 15i equals to 10,250 over 7,000 minus 1. And then divide both sides by 15. So I is equal to 10, or you can say 1 over 15, but let's just divide the entire thing with 15. All over 15. And that leaves us with i's value. Okay, so let's type this into the calculator. So we make two brackets, or we start with two fractions, and in the top fraction we have the 10,250 over 7,000 minus 1, and then in the denominator we have our 15, and so we get our interest as 0,03. Then we have to times it by 100, so this is going to be 0,03095, and then when we times it by 100, our interest will be 3, to 2 decimal places, that becomes 3,10. And that is the percentage then. So this is in decimal places, but this is in percentage. Okay, and then for question 3, Mr. Pillay invests 15,000 into a savings account. After 12 years, he has 40,200 in his account. What interest rate did Mr. Pillay receive? So we have A equals to P, 1 plus I times N, and we list A, P, I, N, and collect all our necessary information. So the principal amount is 15,000. And the final amount is 40,200. Then the interest is what we want to calculate, and the number of years is 12. Okay, so let's substitute all of these values in. We have 40,200, and then that's equal to, my principal amount is 15,000, and then 1 plus I, I'm going to solve for, times by N is 12. Divide both sides by 15,000, so 1 plus 12i is equal to 40,200 over 15,000. And then take the 1 over, so we have 12i is equal to 40,200 over 15,000 minus 1. Divide both sides by 12. And then our I is going to be, let's calculate that with the calculator. So once again, you start with two fractions. Be careful for that. Start with putting in one fraction and then putting in another fraction in the numerator and then typing in your work. Don't start with typing in and then putting in a fraction. Okay, so this is then 0,14, and if we convert that to percentage, it's basically 14%. So 0,14. And then in percentage, it would be 14%. Okay, so that was all. That means we are done with this lesson.